Well, hello and welcome to the 2021 Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska Bountiful Harvest celebration. It's quite a mouthful, but it's quite a celebration as well. I'm John Sukup, your Master of Ceremonies for tonight's event. I'm also the Development Officer for Catholic Social Services. It's great to have you with us here tonight. Tonight we celebrate the work of Catholic Social Services Hastings site and the love of Christ that endures and continues to be our guide while serving a 16-county area of central Nebraska. We'll talk with some of our staff and find out how they have been able to successfully navigate a rather challenging year. And we'll hear from a CSS volunteer tell us how her spiritual life deepened by helping the poor. Our online auction continues until 8 p.m. tonight, and at the end of the evening we'll have our drawing for the winner for our $5,000 giveaway. You can buy quite a few Christmas presents, nice Christmas presents with that. Tonight is also a night to say thank you to those of you who have supported CSS with your donations and your prayers. Without you, CSS would not be able to effectively serve the poor in our communities. This year has brought a few staffing changes to CSS. Among them is our new Executive Director for Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska, Katie Patrick. Katie, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here with all of you tonight and look forward to sharing the evening with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Another change we also have here with us tonight is the Regional Director for the Hastings site, John McDonald. John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm very happy to be in this position, sitting here with these guys, and very blessed to be where I'm at in Hastings.
We're all blessed to be here as well. So what exactly are we celebrating tonight, huh? Well, let's find out in our Year in Review video, which will be followed by some compelling interviews with some members of the CSS family.
Part of the culture that we're trying to build here at Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska is one that values an encounter over a transaction. And that just means that when clients come in to receive services, rather than very quickly providing them the diapers, the personal care items, or the rent assistance that they need, that our staff sits with them, gets to know them, gets to know their name, their history, you know, kind of what they're going through and what their trials and obstacles are in life.
It's not going to stop at, you know, you need your utility bill paid, I'll pay it. I can't stop at that. It's why. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on and let me help you. I don't want you to have to cross this bridge again in 30 days. You know, I just want to take some of that weight off their shoulders and carry it for them.
We have one volunteer up front that helps twice a week give out sack lunches, and he has learned the names of all the people that comes in. He knows some of their background stories, even some of their health needs. He really has a good rapport with them, and I just think it's just one of his gifts. He's a people person, so he's the perfect person to have out front. And then when they come in and they see a volunteer that knows their name and asks, oh, how's your son doing? How's this thing going in your life? It just really means a lot that he takes the time to get to know them. It's huge. It's huge.
It speaks very much to our core value of dignity of the human person, because we really want to make sure that we're taking and going a step beyond just providing services, but we're providing that deeper encounter and that relationship, not just with our staff and volunteers, but with Christ.
Really excited to be at Hastings, especially the people that work here, the volunteers we have, hearing what they do, hearing how hard they work, seeing how hard they work, and I'm just excited about the potential for the future. I'm very hopeful. The sky is the limit, and so I'm having a lot of fun just thinking about the future and strategizing and seeing how we can do good for Hastings and the people in Hastings.
You know, Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska is vast, and our reach is wide, but we are there to help, and the other agencies respect that. They respect us, and they know they can call on us for help, and we'll be there.
There are 17 different outlets, you know, for our food recovery program. You know, each local community should have the resources to serve that particular community. We assisted a number of those communities in getting their 501c3 and then helped them set up their local pantry. But now they take care of their own people when the need is there. And we're just part of that process. We're just and so excited to be a part of that process of distributing the resources that we receive to those in need all the way across southern Nebraska.
The nice thing about CSS is that there is a place for everybody, so I get to place people in roles that will help them feel like they're serving CSS the best. I just think people don't realize all that goes on at CSS, and so I just want to reiterate that there's a place for everybody to help. Even if you can just help once a month, it's a huge help for us.
Almost all of that, food recovery program, with the exception of the pickup, everything else is done by volunteers. It is the most incredible use of volunteer labor that I have ever seen. It is phenomenal.
Not only do we appreciate donors' financial support, we also appreciate them bringing their time and talent to CSS. In fact, we have a man named Don, who many of you might know. He works on the furniture, and he spruces it up and just uses his time especially, and definitely his talents, to help CSS.
They bring things down that they think can be repaired, and you take it apart and you put it back together and clamp and glue it, and then try and make the finish look good. Learning and having a good time and associating with the people here. Such a fine group, and really enjoying it. St. Joseph's usually here most days. He keeps me straight.
Oh, the volunteers, they're great. A lot of them, they don't do it just to pass the time of day. They want the store to be successful because they know what we do goes for a good cause and helps pay for all the other things we do. And that's nice that they've really got a good attitude about that kind of stuff.
I like volunteering because I like to be the hands of Christ here on earth. I also like all the awesome people I meet.
With the St. Gianna Women's Homes West program, what we currently provide are services to women survivors of domestic violence.
Whether it's food or clothing, furniture, assistance with housing, assistance with rent. The real key to that is helping distribute the resources that come to us, from our donors and from income out of the thrift store and the recycling programs. The real exciting part is it all goes back to serving those who have a need, that is causing struggles in their lives. So.
CSS is definitely fulfilling a material need in the population that we're serving, but more importantly, we're fulfilling a spiritual need of the people of Hastings who want to give of their time, talent, and treasure. We're giving them the spiritual opportunity to give of themselves, and in doing so, become holier and happier.
Well, welcome back, and welcome once again to the Bountiful Harvest Celebration 2021. Wish you were here with us, but we're doing the best we can with our virtual program here today, and we are celebrating the many accomplishments that have taken place over the last year. We're sitting in the food pantry right now of Catholic Social Services in Hastings with some of the exceptional people in our organization who are making a difference here in South Central Nebraska. One of our newest members of the organization is now the regional director for Hastings in central Nebraska. His name is John McDonald. John, how long have you had your position?
Well, John, I've had it for about a month. So it's been a short time, but it's been jam-packed with a lot of different things. So it's been a lot of fun to be here in Hastings.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to being in this position.
Yeah, well, if you told me, 8 years ago that I'd be here in Hastings with this job, with these people, I would have been dumbfounded. But my background is Nebraskan. I was born in Omaha, moved to Lincoln, and I went to Pius X High School. After that, I went to the University of Dallas for 4 years, got a degree in economics and finance. And then right after graduation from college, I went straight to the seminary. So I was in Seward, Nebraska for 2 years, and then I went to theology in Maryland for about a year and a half, and then decided that God's not calling me to be a priest, so I left the seminary. And then about a couple months ago, I got hired as a regional director for CSS, and that was definitely a godsend. God definitely prepared the way for me to be here. I wish I could say, I earned this and I deserved this, but it was really a God's gift to me, and it just, He just gently gave it to me, and I accepted it, and I'm really glad I did.
Well, do you think that time you spent in the seminary has had a big impact on your decision to be in this position now?
Yeah, it has had a huge impact. One thing seminary did was ground me and root me in the spiritual life and in my relationship with Christ. And coming into Hastings, I have realized that, whatever business venture, whatever job you have, whatever project you're doing has to first be rooted in Christ and rooted in your prayer life. So daily, I like to use prayer as what gives me the ability to do my job. And I know that, especially with Hastings, this is such a big operation that I don't have a lot of control over, the day-to-day and the, different types of things, just as a lot of jobs, we're human and we don't have full control over everything like God does. And so using that prayer as a surrender to, okay, God, this is your project. There was Pope John the 23rd. When he goes to bed, he said, well, God, it's your church, and I'm going to go to bed. So I kind of like to take that humility and apply it to Hastings, where this is ultimately God's project, and I have a big influence over it, but ultimately it's in God's hands, and I'll surrender to Him, and that's the best way to allow your organization to thrive and your staff to thrive.
You've been here for just a little over a month now. What has been one of the biggest surprises you've seen in this huge operation?
Maybe this says more about me than about Hastings, but I'm very impressed by just the dedication and the time that's put in from the volunteers. They just come in and they work for extended periods of time, and they're really good at what they do, and they really care about what they do. And there's a camaraderie amongst the volunteers and the staff. I'll come into the thrift store and walk through it, and the volunteers will be joking and laughing and talking about their lives and just getting to know each other. And there's definitely a great relationship between everyone that's involved in CSS, especially on a daily basis. You just have this community that's very organic and very healthy.
You mentioned earlier this is a big organization. Tell us about the different things that CSS and Hastings does.
Yeah. The biggest in terms of volume and time is the food recovery and food redistribution. We get food from Walmarts and Sam's Clubs, and it's the food that they don't want to sell or can't sell anymore. And we get all that food delivered here, and then we sort it out, and then we'll give it out to people in need in Hastings, and we'll also put it on trucks and redistribute it across all of south central Nebraska, sometimes going as far as McCook. And so in 2020, they did about 220 tons of food that year. We also are a major distribution site for sack lunches that is cooperating with the Open Table organization. So I think in 2020, we gave out about 42,000 sack lunches. We also have an emergency services program where we give out financial assistance to those who need it, whether it's for, bills, rent, car repairs. So anything we think people need help with, we're willing to help in that way. And we also operate our thrift store, and those funds go to support our emergency services, our food redistribution, and just the general operations. So there's a lot going on, and there's also a bunch of little behind-the-scenes work that goes on. For example, we have our illustrious Don downstairs working on fixing up the furniture, and he's a retired doctor, and he doesn't need to be here, but he wants to be here, and he gives his time, and he could be doing lots of other things, anything, he could be doing anything else, but he chooses to spend time with us working on our furniture and other odds and ends projects that we have going around here. So there's a bunch of different things that happen, and it's just a very organic organization where if someone has a skill or time or anything to give, they will give it, and we'll just find places for them to give what they can. And so it's just a very, it definitely feels like home here. Everyone's giving what they can, and everyone is working together.
Immaculate Heart of Mary Counseling Services as well, and St. Gianna Women's Homes. Those are also programs that are offered by CSS in Hastings. Am I correct?
Yes, our St. Gianna's program is the one that we still have now, and that program is specifically geared towards women who have suffered from domestic violence. So we'll find places, homes to put them, and we'll be there for them in this hard transition that they have, and try and just protect them and help them heal from their situations. And so we hope to continue that organization and find different ways to expand and improve that.
And telehealth counseling services, isn't that primarily focused out of Lincoln, or how does that work?
Yeah, telehealth would be primarily out of Lincoln now. There was an office upstairs actually where people would physically come to get services, but with the advent of telehealth and virtual meetings, that has moved to be more virtual than located here in Hastings.
And with the recent pandemic and technology, it just made sense to still offer those services just in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. John McDonald, welcome to the Catholic Social Services family. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, we're sitting with Ann Van Sciver, a caseworker for Catholic Social Services here in Hastings. And how long have you been a caseworker, and what exactly does that involve?
I've been a caseworker here now for a little over 3 years. And what I do is I meet with the less fortunate here in Hastings, or actually in southern Nebraska. Since COVID started, I've been mostly doing it over the phone. But pre-COVID, I did all in-person clients that would come into the office, and I would meet with them, which I preferred. If needed, I would travel to Superior or, wherever I needed to go. Meet with them, and I just find out what their short-term and long-term needs are, and try to figure out and establish if sustainability is where that's at with them. I don't want to just, put a Band-Aid on it.
Now, what sort of issues are you talking about that you're talking to them about?
Well, they'll call here, and our office, and they'll need assistance with utilities or rent or both, or food or clothing. But usually it's a bigger item like rent or utilities. So I give them a call back, and we're discussing their big need. And the more I talk to them, I ask them questions, as far as, okay, so you need rent. How did you pay rent last month? How are you going to pay rent next month? Just to establish, again, the sustainability piece. And so we figure out, are you working? If they are working, what caused this lapse in, their budget? We go through their budget, and try to figure out the gaps. So then we also ask them questions about food insecurities, because a lot of times if my clients, if they're needing help with rent and they're reaching out to our agency for help, financial help, they have pretty much hit the bottom, rock bottom. So I always ask them, how are you doing with food? Even if they get food stamps, a lot of times that goes really fast, especially if they have several kids. And so then our food pantry comes into play, and they're so grateful for that. And then I also ask them, how are you doing with clothes, especially this time of year? The transition in the seasons, their kids grow so fast, and maybe they don't have winter clothes. So I'm sure to get them, a gift card to the thrift store, or if they can't make it to the thrift store, then that on a day that it's open, then I just collect some things next door and have it ready with their food box when they can come. So they may call for utilities or rent, but by the end of the phone call, they end up getting, a food box and maybe a coat and hat and diapers and toiletries, things like that.
You're kind of working on the fly.
Kind of, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just trying to assess all of their needs.
Sure. Tell us about St. Gianna Women's Homes West.
Okay, that is for women and children, or just, women of domestic violence, and or women facing crisis pregnancies. So what we do is we take a lot of referrals. The community, I'm not sure the word is, if a lot of people really know about St. Gianna's and what we do, and that we're even here for support. So I get a lot of referrals from SASA, which is now Encourage. And
What is SASA?
SASA is the domestic violence shelter, but it's short term. So women will call there first, generally, or the police will call there first. And then women will go there for a very short time, for like maybe a night or two, or maybe a week at the most. And then they will, a caseworker from SASA will get a hold of me, and then they will fill out an application. I'll meet with the individual and just kind of assess what's going on, their needs and whatnot. And then we will financially, emotionally, spiritually help them, guide them, support them as much as, generally it's about a year. The program lasts for about a year. And women of domestic violence with children, these kids, they don't deserve to be living in a home of domestic violence. And it doesn't matter if you're coming from a beautiful neighborhood or a beautiful home, or if you're coming from an impoverished neighborhood. You generally are going to leave that situation, when you finally do leave the situation, with nothing but your children and the clothes on your back.
You do a lot.
Yeah.
How do you mentally prepare for a lot of the things that you see that it's got to be kind of tough?
It is, but it is also a lot of prayer. I start the day with prayer, end the day with prayer. A lot of time in the chapel, just, sometimes you just have to give it to God. It's out of my hands, but I do what I can, and I feel like I'm doing his work. I mean, as that may sound like it's huge, but I do. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Excellent.
For sure.
And you're doing an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Ann Van Sciver, a caseworker for Hastings Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
One of our greatest assets at Catholic Social Services is our volunteers. And we have a volunteer with us today who's been with CSS in Hastings for more than a decade. Her name is Pam Lay, a volunteer with the Food Recovery Program. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Tell us about the Food Recovery Program. What is exactly involved with that?
The Food Recovery Program that I'm involved with as a volunteer has me coming here on Mondays and Thursdays to sort out all the produce, bread products, pastry products that come from mostly the Grand Island area, also from Russ's here in Hastings. They bring truckloads of product in, and we volunteer to sort it out, get rid of the bad produce, throw it away, give it to the chickens. We do actually give it to the chickens. And then create bags so that people can pick up the food.
And is this the only program you've been involved with in your time as a volunteer?
No, for many, many years I was involved in the month of July with the SAC lunch program, that different denominations of churches around town are part of. We would bag thousands of bags of lunch in brown bags in July and bring them over to be distributed on a daily meal basis, and serve hot food one day a week usually.
Why be a volunteer, especially with Catholic Social Services?
Because it provides the community with so much outreach, and if we're going to be good stewards of all of us, we need to give when we can, and we need to serve. It gives me more joy to serve than to be served. I mean, I love serving and helping.
Sure. Now, you mentioned earlier that other churches and groups are involved as volunteers at Catholic Social Services. You're with a Presbyterian church for a number of years.
Yes, for many years I was at the Presbyterian Church, and we did every July the sack lunch program. We did 3,000 or 4,000 sack lunches a month. We had great volunteers over there that spent all Sunday after church preparing these bags. And oh my gosh, it was a wonderful service. We all look forward to it. It's a big job, but we loved providing.
But you had a big change in your own life. Last
did.
April, you converted to Catholicism.
I did. It was a heart calling. I loved my Presbyterian and Lutheran background, and I loved coming through my journey, but it was a hard thing. I can't explain it. I just needed to follow my heart, which was difficult because, you know, I still love all my friends, all of us, but I just had a deeper sense of needing a little deeper, richer experience, and for me, that was here.
Now, being a Catholic, as a volunteer at Catholic Social Services, how has that impacted your work?
Oh, it's just richer because I feel I was a part of it before, but now I'm really a part of it because I'm part of the community. And I know the people that I work with are part of the same community. I see them when I go to Mass. I see them on the street. I just feel more connected. And so it makes me want to be here because I wish that more people could receive the benefit of not only just the food service and the community effort, but could actually maybe be encouraged to find more in their lives in a spiritual way through coming here and being served, or just enriching their own serving.
Talk more about the spiritual side. Where does that come into your work as a volunteer? How has that expanded the Holy Spirit in your heart?
Well, for me, to go through the motions of doing community good is wonderful, and any community good is what we all need to do. But to feel really fulfilled with it and to feel a sense of unity and service, it's not about what we're doing, it's why we do it. And I think the spiritual side gives you a deeper sense of love for your community and love for the people you're serving, and loving just everybody in no matter what. I think that's the difference.
Well, thank you for all your years of service and continued service now. Pam Lay with the Food Recovery Program with Catholic Social Services. Well, there's no question Catholic Social Services would not be able to accomplish the many things that we do without our volunteers. Here at CSS in Hastings, we have over 60 regular volunteers, but to coordinate that many people, well, that's why we have Joni Heckman, our Hastings Volunteer Coordinator. Hi, Joni.
Hi.
Tell us how you do that. How do you schedule and work with all these different volunteers?
Most of our volunteers are regular shifts, which means they have a scheduled shift every week. So we have, for example, a group of ladies from Roseland that comes every Tuesday in the thrift store, and they sort all those things all day long as a group. So they may leave at lunchtime and go grab something to eat or go to Mass, but then they come back. So a lot of our volunteers are so regular that they're very dependable, and we know when they're going to be here. Other times we have groups that come in and they say, we want to come make sandwiches, and I just have to find the time to squeeze them in, and we're happy to have them. So.
Can anybody be a volunteer?
Anybody can be a volunteer. Most of the time, if they're children, of course, they'd come with their parents. But we do have fifth graders that come in pretty often. They're working on confirmation hours for the Diocese of Lincoln, so they do come in as a group sometimes. But we have people of all ages that come in.
Of course, you're based out of the Catholic Social Services building here in Hastings, but you have volunteers come in, as you mentioned, from Roseland, but how many other communities from around here?
Oh goodness, we have partnered with quite a few communities. I was just out in Prosser the other day. We had a school out there that made 2,500 sacks for us for our sack lunch program. And then a couple of other local schools here. We have volunteers from out in Glenville. We have quite a few from Lawrence. We have one from out in Harvard. So we get a bunch of volunteers from all across the area.
How do you decide what volunteer is going to do what job?
I think they have a pretty good idea when they want to come in. We have two sides of the house, in a sense. We have the food side and the thrift store side. So a lot of people might say, I'm not interested in sorting produce. I'd much rather look at clothing all day. So they sort clothes instead of apples. But other times it takes a good tour through our facility to see where they might feel comfortable. And if they come a few times and feel like they'd rather do something else, that's okay. We just find the right spot for them and their gifts. So.
We heard from Pam Lay earlier and her experience of it being a volunteer. Can you give us another example or an instance where working as a volunteer for CSS impacted their lives very positively?
Sure. I think of our florist. She's a retired florist next door, and she's been working with flowers her whole life, and she wanted to retire from her regular day-to-day job, but she didn't want to give up her talents and gifts that she's been using for so many years. So she actually brings I would say a couple hours a week to CSS, her talents, and she does things like taking the garlands and the funeral flowers, any of those types of things, and she can make beautiful bouquets that we can sell next door. So she feels like she's still using the things that God has given her in her life, but she doesn't have to put it to use every day. She can come in and volunteer as she pleases. So she still feels like she's being used even though she's retired. Yeah.
Are there times, though, especially with the experience of going through a pandemic and people staying at home, how has that impacted your job?
I think quite a few people have decided to stay home. We lost quite a few volunteers, but I've seen some come back. And, I think, at any given time we're going to lose people, whether it's due to the pandemic or any other family-related issues, but we always seem to pick up somebody new. We just last week picked up a new volunteer for our food recovery program. So there's always new people interested, and there's people out there. They have hours to give.
As we head into the holiday season, do you have a request for volunteers for any specific thing?
We do. We actually have an angel tree toy shop that we do. We're able to provide toys and blankets and food baskets to local families, and it always takes a huge number of volunteers to pull that off. We need people that act as shoppers that go around the toy shop with those clients. We need Spanish interpreters badly. We always need Spanish-speaking people around here. So if anybody's bilingual, we'd love to have them at any time of the year. But yeah, and we have a Thanksgiving food giveaway as well. We do need some men that can help lift those heavy turkeys and boxes of food into people's cars. So those are coming up in the next few months.
Is there any sort of vetting process that a person has to go through to be a volunteer?
You do need to apply. That application is actually online at our csshope.org website. So they can go on there, and then I receive that right into my email, and I can look that over and give them a call. There's actually a place on there that shows their level of interest as far as how often they want to volunteer and what types of things they'd like to do. So, and then typically people that are working with the public, whether giving out food or cashiering in the thrift store, anybody that's face-to-face with someone from the public would do a background check as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Joni Heckman, anything else you'd like to add?
No, just to say that, we can all be the hands and feet of Christ, so coming out to CSS, we'd love to have anybody that wants to help.
Great, and thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Joni Heckman, Hastings Volunteer Coordinator for Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska. Well, those are just a few of the many amazing people that work for Catholic Social Services in Hastings that are really bringing hope in the good life. Speaking of hope, I hope you've had a chance to put your final bids in on the online auction, which will be closing at 8 p.m. We are actually sitting on 3 of the 4 bar stools that are in the online auction, so we can attest they're very comfortable, and you'll be very lucky to get those, whoever wins that. But again, you'll have time to check those bids. Again, they'll be closing down here at about 8 o'clock. Well, CSS Executive Director Katie Patrick here with us again. Katie, we've gone over a lot of things in a short amount of time. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yes, I just want to say on behalf of all Catholic Social Services staff and volunteers, I want to express my gratitude to our donors and to the Hastings community. We've been in Hastings since 1991, so about 30 years now. And I think Pat, the volunteer in the video, said it best, that we are here to be the hands and feet of Christ. And we can't do any of that work without the donors and without the community. And so I say thank you to everyone who has supported us over the years. And we look forward to many more to come.
Absolutely. Well put. All right. We've also got our $5,000 giveaway tonight. CSS Hastings Regional Director John McDonald, would you do the honors, please?
It would be my honor.
If you draw my name, I'll be forever indebted to you.
All right. The winner of the $5,000 is Jay, that's the initial, Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. Right. So Jay, congratulations, you just won $5,000.
And Merry Christmas, how about that? All right. Well, again, once again, thank you so much to our donors, our volunteers, and especially our sponsors who made this event possible here tonight, and for helping us bring hope to the good life here in central Nebraska and to those we serve in the Hastings area. Thanks again, good night, and God bless.